You are listening to the Thin Pink Line podcast, brought to you by the European LGBT Police Association. Greetings and welcome to the second podcast celebrating the 20th anniversary of the European LGBT Police Association. In the last episode, we heard from Jan Snyder, who spoke about the founding of EGPA and the early years of the association, including the first conferences in Amsterdam, London, Stockholm, Barcelona and Vienna. Our guest for this episode is Herman Renes. Herman replaced Jan to become the second president of EGPA and would preside over the association for both the Dublin and Berlin conferences in 2012 and 2014 respectively. So let's hand over to Herman as he tells his story and the part that he played in the history of EGPA.
My name is Herman Renes. I'm from the Netherlands. In daily life, I'm a senior police officer and I work for the Dutch National Police in the Dutch Expertise Center on advising on discrimination as a policy advisor and a trainer. I'm married to Andrew for 21 years now. And I had my coming out actually within the police when I was 27, so afraid to do so. At that time, it was probably early 90s or something, and which I think even in Dutch police, the organization was quite a homophobic organization. So yeah, it took a while to get the courage and the insights maybe also needed to have my coming out. But contrary to what I expected is that I was welcomed by my colleagues as the person, the person I was actually, and a warm welcome into the world, which I feared actually. Yeah, and also coming from a very homophobic family, by the way. So my father was the biggest homophobe in Rotterdam. So that was my stereotype about him actually, because even also after coming out, the connection between me and my dad was got better and better through the years. So. Actually, I wasn't really involved into the LGBT things before I joined the Dutch Expertise Center on Diversity. It was part of Police Academy, accommodated by the Police Academy, and it was a diversity team working on different forms of diversity. Before that, I was a confidential officer for police. And occasionally I joined or visited conferences or LGBT conferences or workshops and such. And then I was approached actually if I wanted to work for the Expertise Center on Diversity, Police Academy. Because I was, spotted probably in this network. And Jan Snyder, you talked to him, asked me if I would want to join in for a chat and see if it worked out between us, but also if I had any idea of what a function within the EGPA would include. And it was just not only the EGPA I was included in, I was also president or chairman of the Dutch National LGBT organization. Which is now Pink and Blue. It evolved into Pink and Blue. But yeah, I gave it some thoughts and I thought, why not? Why not do this? And then I applied for the job officially because it was an application. Jan knew already that he was going to retire at a certain point. And eventually I got the job, which quite unusual for the EGPA partners, but the function I had was a paid job. So from the Dutch police, I was supported to work on these issues, and saying that it was not the Dutch police that paid me, but it was the Dutch government, different ministries, who felt they had the responsibility, who showed leadership actually on supporting a person from Dutch police, being me in this case, financially to be able to do the job. Thus, in the case of EGPA, also supporting different European countries on making these needed steps forward. In 2010, Jan hosted, together, of course, with the board of EGPA and the colleagues in Austria, hosted the Vienna conference. And Jan said goodbye at that moment, and I was introduced as the new president of EGPA. I must say it wasn't really a democratic step taken. I was just, pushed forward as the new president of EGPA. It wasn't a democratic decision, but that's the way it was at that time. The Dutch government financially supported the EGPA, and we needed someone from the Netherlands to chair this association. And it was, a way of getting the money in, and we needed money as EGPA, especially at that time, to make big steps forward. Hosting conferences, being able to accommodate financially, but also practically people from all over Europe, police workers from all over Europe, to show that we are this big association. And that's the way I look at it. For me, it was a business agreement. I mean, it was a job for me. So obviously, I applied for the job. I got the job, and I got paid for the job. And obviously, with a lot of dedication and the sense of urgency. That's the way it was. And it made it very easy for me also, because with money, you travel and you're able to arrange things and things like that. Yeah. Well, one of the things that struck me in Vienna was the amount of people that were there. Gays, lesbians, some transsexuals. The conference, I was like, I didn't even know there were so many gay police officers in European police organizations. And so it was, on that side, a surprise, but it was also a kind of, warm welcoming, not just for me, but for all the people that were at the conference. And also because it had press attention, and so this was a big thing. It was in the newspapers, positively, and also the less positive side of the conference was highlighted also in the media. But also, what struck me was the resistance from some of the Vienna police to this conference as well. They openly protested, for instance, when we marched in the gay pride in the city of Vienna, by turning their backs to us. How rude! But then again, how understandable, that and since then, I think we've just made big steps forward. But still, we see this kind of behavior and this kind of disapproval as well from police colleagues, unfortunately, which shows we still have quite a way to go. But we're doing better, we're making steps, and we have made big steps. Yeah, I used to write this down, in speeches, and I would always say it's better to make small steps forwards and no steps back than, big steps forward and huge steps back. And taking big steps on a lot of these kind of, controversial kind of subjects, it's better to take small steps and to involve also those people who think differently in making those steps forward. And sometimes it's hard because we all want to run forward, but that's not how it works. So looking back to 2010, 14 years, comparing all these different conferences we've attended, it's changed a lot, of course, and we should also count our blessings. Yeah. Well, the decisions taken to organize a conference in a certain city, in this case, is that our vice president from Dublin, Paul Franey, one of the board members of EGPA, from Dublin, well, he needed some support. Let's put it that way. Being able to make, like we mentioned just before, small steps forward, but facing a lot of hesitance, even non-cooperation from Dublin police or maybe the Irish police in this case. Also difficulties within different units of this police. But Paul needed some support. And what we had discussed earlier, and which basically also happened in Vienna, is we would organize the conference in a city that needed our support at that moment, showing that they are not alone, showing that there's hundreds of people attending the conferences, giving the LGBT movement, the police EGPA movement, a face. And Paul needed that face. So, yeah, 1 and 1 was 2. So we went to Dublin. It was quite an over-presentation of the Dutch police at that time. I think we were there with 30 people or something. So it was a lot of Dutch uniforms compared to other countries where, as you know, some participants weren't even allowed to wear the uniform at that time. Paul had quite a rough time also, struggling if you would, be able or allowed to wear the uniform. Also something we discussed a lot at that if it would result in too much ADO hesitance, forget about the uniform, and we're just there to support you, to show that the EGPA is there. And we had quite a great march there and a great conference hosted by the Irish president. I even recall in his private house, which was fantastic. Obviously, showing his support. That's the most important thing about that visit, is that the president of Ireland showed his personal support to this movement. But eventually it turned out well for Paul as well, because he's still within the police and he has made quite some nice promotion as well. And he's being seen again as the person he is, who is by coincidence a gay police officer with certain qualities. Yeah. Berlin, 2014, which was a completely different conference altogether, but also again quite impressive. And Berlin, a great city, obviously. But also facing some issues, like, being able to get support from the German police superiors, if I should call it that. Germany obviously being divided into different regions, not always, especially for the colleagues from EGPA in Germany to be able to, organize things well. Financially, it was quite a challenge. So the Dutch government supported a little bit of this conference financially, but they also were very creative in finding sponsors, for instance, for the conference. Sponsors from outside the police as well, who made this conference possible. And I think the Berlin Pride, one of the biggest or well-known prides, was a great opportunity to show EGPA again, to give the EGPA that face we needed again. And personally, it was, for me, I think this was the most challenging conference, because again, there was a lot of media involved as well, but also a lot of political issues around the whole conference. So it took some talking on different levels. Also, the Dutch government. Political things. Let's put it that way. Yeah, politics involved. Always politics. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But still, we've been needing the politics as well. Obviously, if I look at Dutch government for a long time, and I'm through the whole period, I think even up to the conference in 2016, has been very generous. Supporting these kind of movements. But at a certain stage, Dutch government has also said that, hey, we've been, supporting this movement for quite a while. For some countries, it's time to stand on their own feet. to learn how to support themselves. So it has been, the movement has been there. I think the Dutch government will always be willing and able to support this movement, LGBT equality, anti-discrimination. Time to stand on our own feet. So let's put it that way. It wasn't just the conferences. We met on regular basis as EGPA board or people who were able to attend the board meeting with either support from their own organizations or they came on their own behalf, which I always admired. People putting their own time, energy, effort into building the EGPA into what it is now. But next to the conference, we met in cities, for instance, as Sitges in Spain, Bologna, I think it was, or Turin. Turin it was. Well, where didn't we meet, actually? All these places we visited. And we always try to engage a mayor or a chief of police into at least hosting or welcoming the EGPA board to give it this extra face again. And and there were great meetings, by the way. And, well, I always say it was and probably... I dare say it still is kind of a family, isn't it? You meet, you talk about the mutual interests, things that keep us busy, but basically facing on the professional or professionalization of police organizations, working on that. And every person from his own point of view or with his own style and things like that. But yeah, that's what also always fascinated me. And yeah, looking back, I think, next to, serious business and working hard, it was fun. Fun to meet people. We had our drinks, we had our dinners, and just engage. And that's, probably engaging, encouraging each other, showing others that it's quite okay to be out and open as a gay person or LGBTIQ plus person within police organizations, potentially. Not closing our eyes for the things that still need to be worked on. Yeah. And I mentioned before that financially it really helped us on our way. But if I look at Athens, for instance, in 22, I was invited there and I didn't have any official role anymore except for being there as a participant from Dutch police. But with a low budget, they managed to organize quite a good conference. Participating in the Pride again, which was also quite a challenge again, the hesitance or resistance from even the LGBT community for the police taking part in the gay pride, the Pride March, but also again being hosted by the mayor, which especially for the Greek network in this case, who were quite new into the EGPA organization, was helping them make this step forward. That they needed. I won't be in Brussels. I would have been in Brussels, but I can't be there because I'm on my annual holiday. And I do wish them, all the best conference, and I'm sure they'll be able to make a good conference out of it. And I'm really curious on how EGPA will, just keep on keeping the spirit alive. That's the most important, I think, by engaging. Encouraging, showing guts. That's also very, with a lot of, admiration. And from my own work, I'm still connected to the Dutch LGBT network on a business case, business issues. So who knows? We'll see. Probably we'll see again in future. And I'm very curious to where the new or the next conference will be held.
That was Herman Renes, providing us with his recollections of his time as president of the European LGBT Police Association. We will be producing more podcasts during this 20th anniversary year, so please subscribe and also share this podcast on your social media. Our next podcast will be from our conference in Brussels, which takes place between the 16th and 17th of May this year. I'm Alan Snedden, and until next time, goodbye for now.